Hey guys, this is Grant from the Brutally Delicious podcast with a nice little Brit rock review for you. Even though they're not from Britain, they're from New York, the Ritualists, Too Pure to Cure. This is like the fifth time I've tried to record this review because I keep getting that band name wrong. I keep calling them the Rituals, so moving forward, if I screw up on that one, I'm just going to keep going. Now, I mentioned Brit rock. As you can probably tell by the accent, I am British. I'm also 43, which means my teens are steeped in this band's influences. Suede, Pulp, Placebo are what jumping out at me from the press release, and I think, yes, I want to have a go at this. And Brit rock, Brit pop, call it what you will. It's resurfaced of late, fueled by the Oasis reunion, and there's also been a resurgence in this country of bands from that time that brought more than just that mainstream appeal. Oasis had their pretenders, so to speak, for the Manchester sound, but there was also challengers in the form of Damon Albarn's Blur, and everybody that followed that dreary art house feel. The winners of that were undoubtedly Oasis. Brit rock is going to be remembered as shaggy haircuts and sunglasses screaming mad for it at the top of their voices. Anybody that's seen Quadrophenia, you look at the mods on that and fill them full of high strength lager and ecstasy, and that's what the world was like in the UK in the 90s. And Oasis did a good job of uniting a lot of fans, you know what I mean, especially people that were angry at the world. Oasis were almost punk rocking amongst that, whereas your Blurs, your Suedes, your Pulps, your Garbage, James, Christ, I could keep listing these bands all day. These had haunting, almost traumatised vibes. Manchester rock unified the angry amongst us, art rock unified the sad, and that's why I'm looking forward to this, because all of those bands I've listed are heavy influences of mine. So it's the Ritualists' third release, as I understand it, and I've never heard these guys before, and that's why I'm really looking forward to it as well. I like going into reviews blind, as anybody that's listened to any of my reviews before. Nice fresh take. So I opened the press release, and I look at the picture of these four guys, and they look like four various love children from the cast of The Mighty Boosh. Some people might giggle. Some people are obviously going to need to Google that, but that is a compliment. British art house music and comedy have been intertwined since the late 70s and early 80s. The Boosh are amazing comedians and amazing musicians. So to say that the Ritualists could win a crimp off by a resounding margin is definitely a good thing, moving out of what they look like. So we'll get on to the tunes. The opening tracks on this album almost lose me. Now, they're not bad tracks. They're synthy, upbeat Britpop dance floor fillers, but they're not the tone that I was revved up for in amongst all of this. The second track, You Know Better, is familiar to me to a point where I'm listening to it, almost wondering whether I'm listening to a cover. There's so many elements that are really, really strong harkbacks to those 90s Brit rock bands. It's like they're throwing all of the dedications all at once onto that track. Now, I know that sounds scathing. It's not meant to be. You got to bear in mind that I heard all of these bands first time round. Everybody that's influenced the Ritualists is somebody that I've been listening to for 25 years. And I'm not just talking about those big names. I'm talking about little names that were offshoot bands from the indie bands. Hundreds of them that were one album, two albums, didn't make it kind of thing. Making me think back to those bands is not a bad thing in the grand scheme of things. To me, my criticism of these two tracks isn't about the tracks that they are, it's about their placement. From a vinyl perspective, both of these tracks are amazing side openers, so I would have put one at track 1 and one at track 6. You Know Better is clearly a hell of an earworm of a single. It's tickled the nostalgia button for me to the point where I'm frantically Googling, trying to work out if I know this song, but it's going to bring in new fans to this genre as well. And track 3, King of Air, is where this really gets a hold of me. This track gets going. There's a lot of Beetle Bum by Blur in this haunting, hypnotising, melancholy intro that it's got going on. The guitar and key arrangements across all of this album are absolutely beautiful. They really, really are. They keep that atmosphere going. None of them are trying to fight to be the lead or anything like that. Like, everybody has the right musical message and the right musical outlook for this recording, and I absolutely love it. Track 4, Thousand Tears, continues down this suede-y, Jamesy, melancholy vibe. We're getting into tracks that feel like you're self-medicating depression with speed, and that's a good thing as well. Not self-medicating with speed, that's probably not advisable. Okay, anyway, moving on before I get it wrong. Too Pure to Cure, beautiful pacing. Really, really nice pacing on this track. I'm an open door, Too Pure to Cure. Like, that's light as in the air stuff, that really is. That track is going to be one for the ages. But listening to this track, it gets to the point in my playback where the nostalgia's hitting a little bit too hard, and I almost go gatekeepery for a moment. I'm sitting listening to this track, and as it's climbing and building, I'm thinking, this is very, very arty Brit rock. It's supposed to conjure images of drunkenly fingering your best mate's auntie in a Yates's wine bar in Hartlepool. That's what Brit rock was, and these guys are from New York. Is it genuine, is what I'm almost asked to myself. And then the guitar solo hits for this song, and it's got this roaring, emotional, almost stadium rock American feel to it that doesn't inspire grotty little pubs in seaside towns. And I step back and I think, no, Grant, I get this. That Brit rock sound, that psychedelic kind of depressing fusion of music is now a genre. You know what I mean? It has been for a while. It's been, the 70s and the 80s brought that through with a lot of new romantic and goth kind of stuff. New York's got to have a Weatherspoons that you can get up the stuff in. They're everywhere. So I take that step back the minute I hear this solo and think, no, stay grounded with this. Listen to it without the malice that nostalgia can sometimes bring. Every Thread and Sweet Despair, they keep this low, dreary tone, and the rhythm section really get going in this as well. I really, really enjoy the fact that the drummer and the bass player sound like they're having fun. Not that they're not present for the earlier tracks, but they're clearly having a bit of a giggle at each other. The bass player's got his back to the stage and he's cracking smiles at the drummer while some of these little rhythms are jumping around. And that was the key of Brit rock back in the day, and should continue to be, as a really well bonded drum and bass pairing. And these guys are really, really well bonded. It's absolutely sublime. Erotically Erratic. This takes us right back to like the late 80s. This is more new romantic and less Brit rock. It's the kind of song I imagine Patrick Bateman masturbating to. And Plastic Crusade does a really good job of framing him slicing up some Poor Unfortunate as well. There's that rhythm section comes back with this dirty fuzz on the bass, and I love that because it's got the new romantic gallop to it with that rocky, fuzzy bass feel. The American solo returns here as well, and I love it. It's like they just grab a hold of Justin Hawkins from the darkness and go, "You do a thing, okay," and then throw him away again. And the placing of those solos is really, really nice, not just from a track perspective, but from where the tracks on the albums where these solos are hitting really hard are. Album closer is always a big one, isn't it? And Play the Sparrow is the right choice here. It throws back to me to almost Bar Italia by Pulp on the end of Different Class. Like, it's this come down kind of, I'm happy at what's happened, but I'm sad because I'm hungover kind of feel to it. That, like I say, from an emotional perspective, from a melody perspective, it hits just right. It's where you want your album to end. I've talked a lot about the band here. The reason I've left out one person in particular is because I could do a review on this guy alone. This vocalist, Chris Dryden. Wow. The guy's lending from as far back as the Boomtown Rats and T-Rex, in relation to his influences with his tone, with the way that he's projecting his voice. And every once in a while he just takes that and stamps it into the flames of what was Duran Duran, and it works so beautifully. There's just enough sweetness in his voice sometimes to really let the pain hit. Suede were mentioned before, you know what I mean? He's clearly been chugging on bottles of animal nitrate, because there is a lot of Suede in this. Brett Anderson, one of the most gifted vocalists to ever come out of the British scene, and there's homage enough to be truly blown away. The first track that I listen to after this album is The Beautiful Ones. He's not trying to rip anybody off. He's, like I say, he's taken just the right bits and he's got it spot on. And that's where I'm leaving that, because like I say, we could go on all day. This band are all at once a stunning tribute to their influences and an intriguing evolution of what was a decidedly British genre, and I'm great that it's no longer a British genre. I'm glad that it's spanning the world. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of these guys. If you like a bit of grunge, if you like a bit of punk, listen to this. If you're a fan of Cannibal Corpse, I don't know, you might like it. I'm a fan of Cannibal Corpse. You know what I mean? If you're purist metal, this is not for you. But if you like your American stuff like Soundgarden, like Alice in Chains, Green Jello, Tool, it's still accessible, because there's more to it than just music. It's a good way to end this. There's more to it than just music. This is Grant from Brutally Delicious. Night night.